Hello, this is Steve and Kim Cecil joining your service this morning. So happy to be with you. We are future missionaries to Russia. Todd and I go way back, all the way to college, and then we also hung out in the same district, the Heartland District, for a while. And so we're really excited to be part of the Grace Chapel service this morning.
Yes.
Very, very happy to be here.
Yes, thank you. So Russia is kind of a strange place. A lot of people don't think of going there. And so why us and why Russia? Well, for us, it started when I was in college at the University of Wisconsin here in Madison. And I was an anthropology major studying cultures. And I took a class on Russian culture. And I did it just because it fit in my schedule. Wasn't that interested. But during that year, God really birthed a passion for the people of Russia in my heart. And by the end of that year, which was 1994, I had known in my heart that I had a lifelong call to this people group and to this nation. So I actually went overseas, ended up teaching English, and I probably would have stayed for a much longer time, but I had a second very important call come, which was to marry this guy. So I came back to the United States, and we got married and entered last 15 years of ministry.
Oh, when we got married, one of the things we really believed was that we didn't have two separate callings. Our callings merged. Mm-hmm. So I was in pastoral ministry, and Kim felt like she was, at that point, also called to pastoral ministry. And I knew she was called to Russia. And, of course, when we got married, I adopted that calling to Russia as well. And from that point forward, I knew that someday it was possible that we would be moving to Russia. Mm. And it took a long time, 15 years, to actually get to that point. Right. But we never forgot that call to Russia. And over the years, we spent much time investing in ministry to Russia. In 2001, we went on a trip there. Kim took a mission trip in 2003. 2005, we went to Ukraine together, and actually recently we've had a couple from Uzbekistan move to our city. They're our kids pastors at our church, and they lived in our home for a year and a half while they were getting settled in the United States. So we had Russian people living in our house, and so we've always felt engaged with this calling, but obviously not to the extent that we're going to be engaged in it now.
Mm-hmm. So how did we transition into this role of being missionaries? Well, we got an email in 2011 from the director that oversees Russia, and he kind of knew our story and background, and he said, you know what, we really, really need a missionary couple to come and live here. The Russian pastors have been asking for a missionary for the last 10 years. Would you guys consider it? And when I got that email, I probably in my own self would have hit the delete button, just because even though I had that calling and had that experience, we were so happy doing what we were doing here in Madison, pastoring church, and we opened a coffee shop and serving with missions, and so I was just happy doing that. But over a 10-month period, we really prayed about it, and obviously you know what our answer was, but we didn't get to that place overnight.
Yeah, we had some major hurdles that any person would probably have if you were asked to do such a significant task. And the biggest thing for us initially, for me, was how are we going to pay for this? Mm-hmm. And we knew that what this meant was that we would have to raise our own support and figure out a way to get the funds to live in the country. And and so that was a challenge. A challenge to decide that, you know what, it's worth it. And but we moved forward and said, whatever it takes, we're going to raise the funds. Mm-hmm. And then secondly, leaving our church family here, we planted the church in Madison, Wisconsin, and just really could not imagine leaving our friends. Yeah. But again, God worked through that, and we knew that He was calling us. And then the third biggest hurdle was our children, and could not imagine telling our kids that we were leaving the only friends, neighborhood, school, church they ever knew, and moving to a country that they were completely unfamiliar with, didn't know the language or the culture or anything about it. And but God's call was so strong in us that those hurdles, we jumped over them and responded with a resounding, yes, God, we will go.
Yeah, and I think it's important to mention we really have emphasized to our children that we're going as a family to be missionaries, all 5 of us. And our kids are taking very seriously that it's not just mom and dad, but it's all 5 of us going to minister to Russian people. So that's been a really cool thing to see our kids really adopt this call. And so just been so enjoyable in seeing what God's Spirit is doing in them too. And so, yeah, and that just brings us finally to our assignment in Russia specifically. What are we going to do? Well, you know, if you kind of imagine your own life here in America and all the people surrounding you, the pastors, the leaders that have mentored you, the people in your small group or whatever, the books you read and everything that has made you who you are today, take into consideration all of those things and just, if you can imagine just wiping those away and really just having all you would have was just your faith and the Bible, of course, and maybe a small congregation that thinks like you, but maybe not. That's really the situation in Russia today. There are so many people just desperately wanting people to invest in them, disciple them, train them, because it's just been a really huge lack in their country. So one of the major things what we're going to do is just come alongside and mentor and train and equip the saints to do the work. It's very important that the Russians are going to be doing the work in Russia. We just get to be that support system that they have so desperately longed for. And then ultimately, our goal and the goal of the Russian Foursquare Church that they have articulated time and time again is to plant churches. Everyone that has studied these things and studied ministry knows that the most effective way to transform a nation or community is to plant churches. There cannot be enough churches. And Russia being the largest country in the world, I think we have a pretty big task ahead of us. So the goal that we have and the Russian Foursquare Church has said is 500 churches in the next 10 years. So we want to just come alongside and help them do that. So those are 2 major things that we're going to be doing, and whatever else God has us, but that's kind of our beginning. And we're really just seeking true transformation in this country, and God is pouring out His Spirit. Steve just prayed for a little boy when he was in Russia in March and got healed of tuberculosis. So just God's Spirit is already going ahead of us and doing some amazing things that we're celebrating. So yeah.
Yeah, Foursquare in Russia is about 8 years old officially, and they have about 10 Foursquare churches currently.
Right.
And so the vision that they have is a big one, and a God-sized vision.
Yeah.
And so we're believing with them that they are going to be able to accomplish what God's called them to. So we are asking this morning for you to prayerfully consider joining our team. We can't do this alone. There's no way that we could. And to have partnership with people like you is going to be the thing that's going to make our moving there possible, our ministry there possible, and the vision that God has for the Foursquare Church there possible. You get to come along with us and plant churches with us.
Yes.
And so please prayerfully consider joining our prayer team and our financial support team. And thank you for letting us spend this time with you this morning.
Yes.
God bless you.
Thank you so much. God bless.